Hello, we're going to have lots of fun in art today, and today we're going to talk about the Post-Impressionists, look at some beautiful works of art, and we're going to learn the very basic element of art. We're going to learn how to do pictures in line and how important and how powerful it is. The first picture we're going to look at is Afternoon on the Grand Effet, that's by Seurat, and it's pointillism. The Post-Impressionists were known for their beautiful colors and the brush strokes, unusual brush strokes, sometimes the use of geometric shapes. But if you look at this picture, I want you to notice, even though it's done in little dots, you can still see atmospheric perspective, and you can still see where light falls. It's darker on one side of the lady in the very center with the pink skirt, and lighter on the other side because the light is falling from the upper left-hand corner. In the background, way in the back corner, you can see that the sky is darker at the top and there's light at the horizon line. And there's even artists that tell me, and I've never been able to see this, but they actually say they can see a warmth, a little bit of a yellow on the horizon line. And you can see that in some works of art. But at any rate, the first one we're looking at is Seurat, and this is pointillism. Notice the variation of colors, many colors of green that you see. And because there's a lot of vertical lines, it's a very calm picture. In line, diagonal lines show movement. If the wind was blowing and there were lots of diagonal lines, it would be a totally different picture. So let's look at the next one. And this is by Cézanne, and he uses lots of geometric shapes. However, you see this beautiful use of color, and his use, there's such unity. You know, if you did a whole picture like Cézanne's on the color blue, started with blue and then added your other colors, you'd get some sense of his putting shapes together and color and just creating such a beautiful unified design. And the next person we're going to look at, a post-impressionist, is Gauguin, very famous for the native people in Tahiti. He also did still lifes. He was a very good artist, but as you can see in this picture, the horizon line is up at the top. Very interesting composition. Red draws your eye very first, so you look at the red skirt, and then an artist has a trail that they follow in a picture, and so the artist knows what you're going to look at first, second, and third. And so the next picture we're going to look at is what we're going to really focus on today. And this is a wonderful picture called A Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh, and everybody's probably seen it many times. It has beautiful movement to it and very heavy brush strokes. It looks almost like the whole picture is done in the first element of art, which is line. And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to do a lion, and we're going to just use line in that picture. Now, the first thing I want you to do, I'm doing two of them because I'm going to make a lion that's very sad. You know, your lion is going to be your lion. It's going to be your interpretation of a lion, just using the first element of art, line, L-I-N-E. Now, the reason why I always do two eyes and a nose in black is because you want to have that on there and everything else is created in line. Never scribble, never scribble. Line is powerful. I've seen people have beautiful works of art and then they'll just want to really get done real quick and it'll just ruin the whole thing. Every line is very important that you put on a finished work of art. Very thought through and very important. And light in the eye, if you look around, you look at somebody close to you in the room, you're going to see reflected light. That white is seen in every Audubon bird. You see light in the eye, light reflected. So we're going to put, I want you to create the eyes. You can have circular eyes. You can have eyes that look a little bit like a teardrop or a football, but you want to color them in black. And then lions sort of have eyes like an Egyptian, almost like eye makeup around it, and then there's white. And I used to have kids do these lions, and I'd say, okay, now think of a character trait. And I had some kids think of determination and, you know, just different things, joy. And so you can interpret this in different ways. But the idea is you can do a beautiful lion just using line. The way we're going to start, once you have your eyes and nose done, then we're going to just take our lines and we're going to define the nose like that, just in line. Now it doesn't have to be perfect, but you need to do the lines one at a time. And remember, I mean, I've had kids do wolves or interesting. This is a true story. There's a book called The Ghost in the Darkness, and it's a true story of these man-eating lions in Africa. And they're actually in the Chicago Museum of Natural History. And I think it was 140 natives. It's just horrifying what they did. But they actually were maneless lions. They didn't have manes. They were male lions without manes. And they have them stuffed in the Museum of Natural History, and we actually got to go see them. But so, you know, lions can be very different, but I'm just filling this in with line. And I'm going to create a lion just using lines. Now I've got sort of what you could call a face there. Okay. Now I'm going to define where I want my ears to be, like here and here. Okay. Now I'm going to go around the head. I know this might take you a little bit of extra time to do this. And the exciting thing is when you do a picture like this, you'll find that you can actually do an interesting background and just using lines too. In fact, you can do so many things with line markers, and I mean, we're gonna work with that a little bit with the Van Gogh. But you can do so many interesting things with lines. If you want to make this darker, you have to just put more lines there. You know, you just want to make your many more than what's there right now. You have the little beard type effect that a lion has. You can create a mane any way that you want to do it. You can have a curly lion mane. You can have a lion's mane that I have an example. Just it looks like the lion is having a very bad hair day. And you could just create it any way you want to do it, but you want to remember that when you create the mane of the lion, you're just using the first element of art, which is line. Line is powerful. Line is important. You look at the Nike symbol. Lines are very, very important in art. And your lines define your shapes. You can have a lion's mane that has swirls in it. You can have a lion's mane that just is straight out from every direction. Now, if I want to make my lion, let's say I want to make it a little different, so I'll do another one here. Now, in order to complete this, I could just keep working on it. I could keep making more lines on it, make it really interesting. But let's say that I wanted to create a very sad lion. And I want to create very sad eyes. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect on both sides, but I'm just going to create very sad eyes. And then I'm going to do the nose. So I'm doing this just to let you know that you can be so creative with these. You can make them just about any way that you want to. But the flow of line in the picture is very important. Now, I could make the mouth go down, make him look sad. Maybe I could even put some tears on the picture. And I could even give him, I just want to use lines on that, so that's a little bit thick, but I could even actually create hair, a mane that's sort of drooping. The effect, just a different type of an effect that I could create, again, just using line. L-I-N-E, the very first element of art. And as you're working on this, you know, you can just make it any way that you want to, because it's your lion. You can create swirls around the picture, make it an interesting background. And then when you add the element of color, oh my goodness, it's so exciting. You can do all kinds of really fun things in your creations. And I've never had anybody do a lion exactly like somebody else. That's what's so great. You know, these are all different. But the important thing is that you understand line is the first element of art, and line defines shape. It's very important. So get ready, and we're going to do our next project and even learn more about how to create line, and how to do technique. And your colors would be, you know, you could color these in, but just use line, L-I-N-E, and see how fun it is. We're going to add color and value to line and create a master work of art, or duplicate. We're going to try to just look at it and get inspiration from it. It doesn't have to be exactly that way. In fact, some of the prettiest pictures that I've seen when I've done this project have been pinks and reds and just vivid, beautiful colors, not the Starry Night color scheme, but you can really do that. It's a lot of fun. So you can see also the next picture, it's Exhuming the First Mastodon by Peel. And this is an actual, he did a picture, he exhumed the first mastodon. He did George Washington 6 times, painted him, he was a portrait artist. But as you can see, the picture's been taken apart just using line. Any great work of art, you know, you just have to see it. It's done in line first, it's carefully sketched on there, and then the lines become shapes, and then you add texture, color, value, and you can come up with a really beautiful picture. Now, we're going to go ahead and get started on this. One of my students even took the picture, which I thought was so original, and she put a nativity scene in the town. This is a Van Gogh, and it's public domain, so it's just like when you see the Mona Lisa holding a toothbrush. You can pretty much do that okay because it's public domain, and so you can take this picture and you can learn from it, and then you can really make it your own. Well, with any work of art, when you want to get started, you want to put everything on there first. You want to get everything on there, and then you can always erase, you can always go back, and you can change it. When you work in just one little area and get it just perfect, then you realize you don't have the rest of it on. It can be very, very frustrating, especially when you're trying to put words. You always want to plan things out before you begin to finalize anything. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start getting the feel of the picture, and I'm going to create my horizon line on here. I did it first again with my willow charcoal. The nice thing about willow charcoal is you can just pretty much rub it off. An eraser gets it off completely. It's a nice thing. If you're doing a big mural, it's a great thing to work with. It's just a really good thing to work with. Now, I'm going to do my sun over here. And I'm going to start using, I can use lines and swirls and I'm going to use different colors, and I'm also going to do a mixed media. So I'm going to not only do the markers, I'm also going to do oil pastels, and I'm going to show you how to get some really neat effects. So when I create a swirl, and again, just like our lion picture, we want to have it be really, we want to just think about the lines that we're doing. And when you start your picture, you want to have different values of a color. Like I have about 4 different colors of blue. And the nice thing about that is I can just add to the picture and it'll look a little different because there's a subtle difference in the color. And that makes it a little more interesting. Same thing with yellows and oranges. I can pick my colors. And when I do my sun, I'm just creating this whole thing with lines. So I'm going to add another color of orange and then a color of yellow. And as you can see, it's sort of shaded there too. And I'm going to add, let's see, I think I'll put some yellow on there. But I'm going to continue using my lines. The foreground, I want to have this black figure, and if I take my marker, my black marker, I'm going to create this also in line. Now, there was one time I read about doing a Van Gogh picture with spaghetti and using food dye and just doing the whole thing and gluing spaghetti on a board because it's Van Gogh is all about brushstroke. You can see the brushstrokes. You can see the lines in his picture. So however your picture turns out, you want to be able to get the feel and see the lines. And everything starts coming together the more that you work on it. Now, a really neat thing you can do with this picture when you start doing this, and again, this is the kind of picture that you don't get done real quickly. This will take a little bit of time to do it, but one thing that you can do is you want to have your lines defined. And of course, I want to have the yellows, and then I have to fill it in. But what you can do is you can take oil pastel. And here's some examples of things that you can do with oil pastels. Oil pastels are an opaque medium. You don't want to see white through them. So it's pretty neat if you want to take a blue oil pastel. You want to color real dark with oil pastel. So if I wanted to get my blue line on there, like that, then I would want to smear it because I want it to look like I painted it. I would want it to look smooth. I don't want it to look like a crayon. Nothing in the picture should look like it's done with crayon. Everything should look like it has lines to it. And even if you create the sense in the picture, if you can create like the sense of line using these oil pastels, you want to have the markers on there too because you want to create that sense of line. That's so beautiful and so interesting. Now, I can start putting this color around it. Which is a very beautiful color of blue. And I want to put my lines on there too at the same time. This is the kind of picture you could spend hours on because it's very intricate and very involved. And when I have my lines on there, I can take my yellow oil pastel, and again, I want to make it opaque, but I can see my orange lines, and I want this to look a little bit like a painting, so I can take, and then I'm going to rub it. I always rub it with my fingers, but you might want to rub it with a paper towel or a cloth of some kind. But you do want to rub it out, rub your oil pastel out, so that, as I said, that it is going to look a lot like a painting. Now, as I go through the picture, let's say I want to do the hills. I do the hills in line. And to get a little bit of shading, I can take my black. And again, I do want this to stay like it is lined, but I can take my black oil pastel or a darker color of oil pastel, and I can shade the hills and the mountains. So as I'm blending it, like this, my markers, I can take my markers and just add to this. It's so much fun to do. And you're going to have a picture at the end that's going to look very different, probably from Van Gogh's, but you're going to learn a lot about mixing and blending color, and you can create a really beautiful masterpiece. So this technique is mixed media, and many of the illustrators used to use mixed media quite a bit. It's a really fun thing to do. The important thing is you're keeping the flow of the lines. You're doing a line picture and you're adding beautiful color to it. And it needs to be very systematic. Now, as I go, I'm going to add yellow here, my yellow color. And I think I'm going to add some more blues. The Post-Impressionists were known for their use of vivid and bright colors and brushstroke. So what we're doing something that's going to look, we're going to be able to tell what it is. We're going to be able to tell that it's a town, but it's not going to look realistic. It's going to look like a beautiful swirling sky, and you have your colors and your lines, just like Van Gogh's picture is so interesting to look at because of the flow and the movement. That's what we're going to try to achieve. We're going to try to achieve a picture, as we're looking at Van Gogh's picture, that has a lot of movement in it, that has circles and swirls, and that it's beautiful and very vivid and very colorful. I just have to keep the idea going of the swirls, and every part of the picture needs to be covered with line. We're not talking about a picture here that just is done. We want it to look like Van Gogh's picture. We want it to look like it's covered with lines, and you can just see the lines, you can see the swirls, you can see the movement in the picture, and we need to be able to fill it in. And we can do that using the two mediums, the medium of oil pastel and the medium of marker. And again, line is the first element of art. It's very powerful and very, very important. This picture might take, I've had kids do this picture that it's taken them a couple hours to do this. Because as I said, if you take it and you do it carefully, you might want to take some of your lines and have them be like this, like a short brush stroke. But you want to be neat and you want to be systematic in what it's going to look like. And when you really go over it, you still want to be able to have everything coming out. Now the foreground is darker. The village is your darker colors, and your sky's a little bit lighter. And as you're working on this, what you can do is you can come back, and if you feel as though you've gotten something just a little bit too dark or just a little bit too light, you can add your oil pastel over it, and it'll lighten it or it can darken it. And remember, oil pastel, you want to just be able to smudge it. I want to show you some techniques in oil pastel and marker. These are all, these have been done, and I did a marker there. You want to take oil pastel and color really dark, and then take and get it fuzzy, rub it out with your finger. Remember, it's opaque. Now, in this one, I took 2 colors of oil pastels, which I'm going to show you, and then I just did lines like that coming out and created a really neat fuzzy sort of a spiral. All this you can put in this picture. I just thought I'd do a corner, and when you color real dark with oil pastel, if you just blend it, it really, it has such a nice effect. Now, and this one is just a color that I pulled out, and then I put a spiral in the center. All of this you can do in your picture. So on this piece of paper, I'm going to show you how to do it. Now, first of all, when we do this, all I have to do is smudge it, and I get a really neat fuzzy effect. I always thought, you know, butterflies and caterpillars, and getting a fuzzy effect like this is what you want with what you've got, your contrast of your line, and your line is very fine line with your marker, and then you have your fuzziness right here. Now the second one we're going to do, I've done in the oil pastel, I've done a spiral, and so I'm just going to take and I'm going to rub it in, and then I'm going to blend it out like this. This is another interesting thing that you could put on your paper. Creates almost like a spider web type thing, but you can still see lines coming out from the center in art are called radial lines. And remember, this picture we're looking at Van Gogh, but you can be as creative as you want to with this. Now the next one, I'm going to blend it out like this to where it almost looks white in the center. And because this is all about line, there I have it blended out. But because it's all about line, I'm going to take my marker And I'm going to put a spiral in the center of that very interesting shape. Now the fun thing is you can use all of these techniques in your picture, in your Van Gogh picture you're doing, and you can do lines and combine the shapes and combine the color. And post-impressionists love that. They love the bright use of color and the use of line. So I want you to continue working on your picture and experiment with these techniques because they're so much fun.